and welcome to the ESPC show. And as ever, it's Paul, and I'm not going to point at you, I'm just going to say, and it's
Megan.
It's so hard to keep my hands still. And today we have got a really exciting episode. We're going to be talking to Kate from the Rock Trust.
Yeah, so the Rock Trust is a charity that is, their mission is to reduce youth homelessness in Scotland, and they are our chosen charity for the next 12 months. So yeah, we wanted to find out more about Kate's own story, as well as what the work that they do through Rock Trust.
And it's a really inspiring story that Kate's got, and without further ado, you can hear that story now. So here's the show. So hello, welcome. This is our episode. We're talking to the Rock Trust. It's our chosen charity for the year, and we thought what a great place to start would be to get you, Kate. You're the CEO, not the founder, as I read with interest on LinkedIn. Do you want to explain that? Because that was a great article.
Yeah, I think I've been at the Rock Trust for a long time, but Rock Trust have actually been around for over 30 years and were founded at around the same time I was a young homeless person. So I was sleeping rough in Edinburgh in a car park over Rose Street, and actually begged on the bridges and still know some of the people that are on the street or hanging around on the street. But that was around the same time the Rock Trust were funded, so I was one of the young people, was one of the young people who were the cause of the Rock Trust being started.
Sure.
However, I am not its founder. I became chief exec around 15 years ago, but my passion is definitely in youth homelessness.
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot more about that today. And when we chose our charity, we really liked some of the creative things that the Rock Trust is doing, and in your local. I mean, some of that, again, you learn every day, don't you? One of the things that we were learning about was just sometimes it's about finding the deposit to be able to rent something, isn't it? And you've got some creative schemes, haven't you?
Yeah, and I think we've always tried really hard to follow the evidence, but at the same time try to problem solve through innovation. And I think doing the same thing over and over again is not always the right way, and particularly for young people, so trying to learn from them and their experience. So in terms of our rent deposit scheme, that was a scheme which offered young people the rent up front and the deposit, but also the support to first move into a house and settle down and negotiate with the landlord and do all those kind of things. And sometimes just being the guarantee of that, because our young people don't have families behind them. Yeah. And you're talking about young people who are working in the hospitality industry in the city. So they're the ones serving in the pubs and restaurants, and quite often then sleeping in backpackers' hostels. Just because they don't have a deposit, not because they can't afford the rent. So it's a really important option for young people.
Of course, and we know that the government is now called it a housing crisis. I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, what's gone wrong? This hasn't happened overnight, has it?
No, I think there's a huge need for more social and affordable housing. We have a lot of people, and particularly for young people are doubly disadvantaged in the system. They are more likely to be on low wages with insecure employment, and less likely to be able to afford deposits and have references from landlords. So affordable housing is required to make sure that they have somewhere they can call home and somewhere that's easily accessible to them. And that's a massive issue in Scotland and elsewhere, I have to say. But in Scotland, declaring the housing emergency means that we're now going to do something about it, right? We've got some will and some resources to be doing that.
Is there any country that does this well?
There are, and we are very keen to learn from all of our partners. And we, at the Rock Trust, in fact, we basically copy the Canadians who's done amazing things in youth homelessness. But we also speak regularly with those in Helsinki. So in Finland, they've done amazing things to solve homelessness using Housing First. And so for us, again, us being creative, we worked out how Housing First, that was created in America and piloted on a national scale in Finland, we took that and applied that to young people here and tested it in Scotland, Housing First for Youth, as a whole new method, and we now train people across the world on how to deliver that.
And what does Housing First actually mean then?
It means that rather than requiring that a young person or an adult, but it's Housing First for adults, rather than requiring that someone demonstrates their ability to maintain housing, so that they have the behaviours, or they're sober, or they're attending support appointments, or whatever that looks like, rather than asking for all of that first before you achieve housing, you essentially say housing is an unconditional offer. Housing is a human right, which of course it is. So we're all right to be housed. So housing is a human right. We'll give you the house, and then we'll give you all the support you need to do everything else that you did in your life. So get the support, get into employment, look after your health, whatever that looks like. For young people, the young people who access the housing first services tend to be young people who may have been in care during their childhood. They may have been bounced from placement to placement. So actually lots of housing options will just fail for them. So offering them a house, which is a really secure base, they get to decorate it and make it home. It's their home, it's unconditional, and then just be there for when they need support and quite persistently offer that support. And it works amazingly. So young people who've never been able to stay in one place and have that kind of security and consistency of support and housing for years are settling down in their housing, which is great for everyone.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes with a lot of these social issues, we always talk about how prevention is better than cure. I know that's something that you guys look at as well. I wonder if you want to talk a bit more about your prevention services that you offer within schools.
Yeah, well, we talk about ending youth homelessness, and that's not a naive thing. We think that that is a reality. So we make homelessness rare, brief and non-recurring, that we can't end it. So the first part of that is making it rare. So we want to help young people avoid it, and to do that we need to intervene quite early. Now we know, because we have lots of evidence, there's been lots of research done for many years, and the causes of homelessness have not changed. The main driver of homelessness is poverty. The immediate causes of it are relationship breakdown and being asked to leave. So essentially it's young people who have conflict at home, who fall out with family. So for years, I think we've delivered that support at the point of crisis. So when somebody falls out with their family and they walk away from home, and that's where the support has been delivered. And we thought, we know what happens before this point. We know that they are missing school, they're having fights, they're staying with gran or with friends, they may get involved in antisocial or criminal behaviour, they maybe health impacts, all the things that happen before that. So if we met them at school and we could see some of those markers, could we intervene then? Mm-hmm. So we deliver a project called Upstream, and again, we were not the first ones to do it. It was a project from Australia, the Geelong project, which was then taken on by our partners in Wales. Clonai did very similar work to us in Wales, and they helped supported us to put it in place here. But we are now in a few local authorities delivering our Upstream project.
And how long has that been?
Just new started as a 3-year pilot. We're testing it.
Say, how
testing it.
Yeah, what's terrible, before you've made an impact?
So even immediately for me, it's really interesting, and I'm thinking this could be a real game changer. And we decided we're doing a pilot. We need to do it properly, because if we only do a pilot in Edinburgh, other local authorities will say, but it won't work here. So we're doing it in Edinburgh, Perth and West Lothian, because we're trying to do the kind of rural, urban and semi-rural. Yeah. We're doing it in a couple of schools in each place that have different kind of demographics in those schools. But we're rolling out as a 3-year pilot with a full evaluation. And we just started in November, did our first survey. And essentially this is how it works. It should be really simple, right? It's a survey, a piece of software that's been developed before us, handed over to us. So we are doing a survey in schools. Young people answer the questions in the survey. It tells us through algorithms based on evidence how at risk of homelessness that young person is, right? And we had our first set of surveys went out to just over 1,200 young people across the 3 local authorities. We have about 11% of young people who are at risk of youth homelessness, about 14% at risk of family homelessness, 32% have high levels of conflict at home. And then we have a massive percent, it's like 80% of young people who have low levels of well-being or resilience. So that's what our children are facing at schools. So now we have targeted in each local authority a school who's more at risk, because we want to make sure we make a big impact. Yeah. But now our team are out there, and we're offering the families and the young people interventions, and some of it is youth work, and some of it is making sure the family have their income maximised, or getting them better, more appropriate housing for their needs, or making sure they've got the right social supports in place that they need. Some of them are carers, so helping them make sure they've got that support for that. But if we can engage them with their community supports and help them stay together as a family, that's best. Yeah. In most cases, that is best. So that's what we're offering. And if we offer that to young people in school, not only does that reduce the risk of family and youth homelessness, but we've seen results that also suggest that it means young people stay on at school. So we have fewer early school leavers and better engagement with parents and communities. Yeah. So lots of positive things.
Yeah, early intervention. And what's the age that you're You're asking that question.
Ideally, you could actually be asking it to help with lots of people in the first years, but it's a 3-year pilot. So we're a bit older because we want to make sure that they age out and we capture the impact of that.
Yes.
But I could see this being a national programme in all schools.
Yeah.
And it would help direct, I think, the support available in communities. If you know that a proportion of your young people have issues around their mental health and well-being, then that can change the way a school supports them, it can change the way community services are run. So to use this information for planning would also be really useful.
It's a new way of thinking, isn't it? It's like early intervention. It's almost get ahead of things, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, and it's
Sure, economically that must be better
massively.
in the long term, sure.
If you think about what happens when a young person becomes homeless, they're not just disrupted for the time that they're homeless. So the trauma of that insecurity and the time it takes to then settle down and gain confidence and the feeling of safety and security and be able to trust people and be able to trust your situation, all of that long-lasting impacts and takes a long time to recover from. So if we can make homelessness really rare and then make the time spent in crisis, if any, a really short amount of time to make sure the housing options are great and the supports are available, we think that youth homelessness can be ended in Scotland.
And how big a problem is youth homelessness in Scotland right now?
So it's not changing massively. However, it has been reducing year on year for about the last 15 years, and then the last couple of years it's gone back up again. All of homelessness has gone back up again. Between the housing crisis and COVID, there's been lots of kind of changes in the numbers. However, youth homelessness has for a long time been an overrepresentation of young people in the homeless population. So children and young people under 25 in homelessness accounts for about 45% of the people in homelessness. In the general population, it's about 27%. So you look at a general population, young folk under 25, so that includes children. 27% of the population, 45% of the homeless population. However, when it's just young people, 16 to 25, it works out about 8,000 young people.
Sure.
Just a little big chunk of young people becoming homeless. And it's different across each local authority in terms of the numbers and the proportion. And we don't have any local authority that's getting it entirely right yet, but we have improvements and lots of learning and innovation going on. So that's quite exciting. We just need the political will and the resource to push that forward.
Yeah. And Kate, your story is really inspiring. Would you be the exception here? We spoke about the path that they can set up on, and the early intervention stuff sounds really exciting. If people end up homeless, what percentage of people remain that for their life or for a long period of life? Is there any data on that, or I suppose that's hard to...
Yeah, there's max data, but when we, for example, in Edinburgh, when we tried to start Housing First here for all ages, not just for young people, we were trying to work out how we could target Housing First to those who most need it. So that would be people who'd spent a long time in and out of homelessness, who'd never been successfully housed over a long period of time, who had multiple support needs and issues. So they might have mental health combined with physical health, or disability combined with substance misuse issues, perhaps, and other issues.
And again, your point.
Looking at how long they've been in the system.
Yeah.
9 years. 9 years since first becoming homeless to, it was like 9+ years. And those were the people who were getting that support because everything else had failed for them. So it was, how can we possibly give them something which is supportive and secure enough that it can work? And Housing First really does do that. And we've rolled that out across Scotland. We are trying to follow what they've done in Finland before us. And again, it has great impacts and great outcomes.
Yeah. And do you feel, within those 9 years, there's people that maybe have, so there's physical issues or addiction issues that have grown as a result of being homelessness, if they may not have started with all those issues, but they are 9 years in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We know this stuff because when we look at child development, what we talk about is a child having a secure base, and that's not just about having a house, right? That's about having a family or a relationship, that unconditional love, and even later in life when you've had trauma, the same thing works. It's really hard to learn when you're in a place of insecurity. So what we need is a secure base. So if you offer somebody who's in a traumatic situation like homelessness a secure base and a consistent relationship, they can quite easily manage to work their way out of it. When that is not available, And when the trauma that is then going on and then the self-medicating that then occurs is massive and has huge impact.
Yeah.
And I think there's still maybe a lot of myths around things like drug use and behaviours coming first. I think that's not the case. I think when it comes to and I think having the right resource at the right time is really important, and particularly for young people.
We need you back in the show in 3 years' time to see if this.
I'm really excited about it.
I can't see how we can't help.
And like I say, I've been doing this my whole working life. So the minute I was kind of securely housed, I went back and started volunteering as a youth worker. And so I've been working with young people as a volunteer and a sessional worker. And then the minute I was qualified, came back into the sector to work. And I think there's two things. I don't think that Scotland as a sector, politically and the third sector and homelessness providers and housing providers have never come together like they have around housing first and around the prevention agenda, which is now going to become part of our policy framework in Scotland. We're about to implement a new prevention legislation in our policy programme, so that's brilliant. And secondly, I don't think that we've ever had everyone coming together like this on such a drive for evidence-based practice, and those things are really, really important.
Yeah.
So the fact that across Scotland, everyone is going to have to take responsibility for preventing homelessness. All public services will, as part of the prevention duties that we're putting in. So I think that's really exciting. I think that's got massive change, but also the drive for innovation based on trust.
Yeah, best, as you say, best in the world, take the best ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, just returning a little bit back to the Rock Trust, there are other facets to the trust. You own property.
Good.
That's an interesting one. Do you want to elaborate a little on
that? We provide a range of services, and some of them are housing based. So we own some properties. We have long-term lease on some properties. In fact, in some local authorities, we have long-term lease on properties which are in a complete state of disrepair, and we fundraise to renovate those and then offer them at a subsidised rent to young people. So we have a mixture of kind of housing, and some of it's not owned or leased by us. We work with the landlords and we provide the support part to the landlord's housing. So we have a range of kind of housing offers.
Sure.
And I guess what we're trying to do is we're not trying to create some sort of homelessness industry out of this. What we're trying to do is offer young people what their non-homeless peers would have. And so for young people, like most of us, at some point in our youth have shared a house with our peers. We've lived it with a family. And so that's what we try to offer. We try to offer that kind of host homes with volunteers who have spare rooms. So we offer that, which is family living. We have small-scale shared properties, quite often with a live-in supportive flatmate who's normally like a social worker or ComEd student, who's then the role model who lives in the house with the young people. Or we then have independent tenancies, including parent and baby flats. And those will be either owned, leased, or owned by the landlord.
Sure.
Just provide support.
Yeah, wow. It's a real mix, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea is that young people have choices, and we quite often have young people who, when they first come to us, they are determined they want their own place and have a dream of what that's going to be like, and they get their own place and they realise that coming home to their own place each night is quite lonely, and so they then want to move into shared. Or young people, they share because they don't want permanent forever home. They want something temporary, and they want to be able to move where work is or where study is or where they are, where they want to live their lives. So we have a real mix of young people who want a real mix of options. It's just like the rest of us, having choices in how we live is really important.
Yeah.
But the other bit is that's really important is being able to call someone, right? Because we all do that. When you're first in your home, who do you call when you've got a DIY project being done, or when all the lights go out and you don't know what to do, or how long to cook that chicken, or whatever it might be. Having someone to call at all hours of the day and night. So that's what we offer. Essentially, that's it. We are at the other end of a phone.
You really are basing, as you say, it's a real solution focus, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The impression I get of you is you are a charity, of course, but you are looking at the solution to, aren't you?
Yeah. And we've worked with young people, and sometimes young people can be really, really creative because they are idealistic, right? They've not got stuck into here's how it's done. Here's how it's been done, Here's how it's been done. And it's that young people come up with the most creative solutions, and And I think sometimes we've got to follow that and make sure, because it's not just about providing what we think works or what's the cheapest solution. It's people's homes and lives we're talking about, right? So it's about how can we offer something which makes people feel safe and secure and allows them to get on with their life and takes away that worry and insecurity. So that's what we try to offer. And sometimes it's an intermediate step, and sometimes it is like I said, a secure base and unconditional home for as long as someone wants it. And it really depends on what it is that they need at the time, and that can change. So we support young people through change. And let's face it, what you want when you're 16 is not what you want when you're 21, is not what you want when you're... but I think it's a really odd thing that in homelessness, it has been for a long time, it has been that if you've just passed that birthday, you're 16, you are treated like a 60-year-old, you're just an adult in the system. And it's like, it doesn't feel right, because it's not what happens in reality. It's not the way we would look at our families and the young people around us. So what we're trying to offer here is something that is, for young people, offers a good experience of housing as well, and a good experience of learning and mistake making, right? Because that's how we all learn, is by making mistakes.
Yeah.
So how can we make that safe?
Yeah.
So and if somebody is listening to this and thinking, like ESPC, they want to get involved, they want to help Rock Trust, how can people get involved with the work you're doing?
There's loads of ways they can help. So we do have
You can run the marathon.
well, I was going to say, like I said, you can run a marathon, or abseil off the fourth bridge, or do all these things. But I think also, just to get in touch, we often have a need for volunteers, and we are like any other organisation or company. We have a lot of business functions that we require support with. And surveys, and we have cooking groups. We have chefs that come in and do cooking groups. We have baristas that come in and do. They teach our young people how to work coffee machines so that they can go out and get jobs in the city. We have people with knitting classes and Reiki groups and all sorts before. But we have CV building workshops or interview skill workshops. We also always need goods, dry store goods, so that young people, when they first get property, can get a kind of cupboard full of staples and some toothpaste and a toothbrush, and we do all those kind of things as well, and offer basic starter packs for homes. But our website and our socials have all of the info, and you can also sign up to our newsletter, which tells you about all of the opportunities. But it'd be great if folk can get behind us and support some of the projects and work that we have going on.
Yeah, you have a phenomenal amount of events throughout the year where, as ESPC, we're looking at what we can get involved with, and there is a myriad of... We're just going to start on the marathon this year, though. We've got a few people from ESPC running about.
Yeah, but too.
And there's lots of great information on the site.
There's quite a range, and because we are constantly renovating empty homes and bringing them into use for young people, we ask the young people to get involved in those and creating those homes that they will then live in, right? But we also have volunteers that come in and help. So we may well recruit you in to build some flat pack furniture or something.
I'm all
paint a wall or...
putting in, decorating.
There's lots of tasks to be done, which we need support with. So
I'm that's what appeals, because I think, having done these things before, I think it's a great way to give something back, but equally to get to know your colleagues in a less formal setting. So, I mean, certainly people who work for ESPC now, I remember we were motioning someone senior like 5 years ago, but I got to know more about them then than I ever would have done working in the office with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, if people have skills, we can definitely use them. So there's always ways of getting involved, for sure.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave. That's been really inspiring. Thank you.
Cheers.
Brilliant. And tell you one thing, Megan, Kate is the absolutely right person to be CEO of that business.
Yeah, she's so passionate about work that they do, and I think it's so inspiring to hear her story and yeah, all the work that they're doing. I think their initiative like Upstream is
Yeah, I think that's going to make a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find out more about Rock Trust, we'll pop all the details in the description box below. But otherwise, we'll be back next week.
We will see you then. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.